Yeah, this is not gonna survive, unfortunately. Hey there, Robert John Hadfield here again from Audio Mover, a company that takes your old audio and videotapes and turns them into digital. And I have a broken cassette here that we're going to repair. And they knew I wanted to make some videos about repairing tapes, and they happened to have one, and you'll see that they left me a little note on here that says, "Give some love." Apparently that's what this tape needs. So it is broken, and we wanted to just show you how we do this, or how we fix tapes. And I'm not really sure what's going on with this. It's interesting, I'm just looking at this right now. You'll see that there's some discoloration right there. This must have gotten wet or something at some point. So let's get, okay, yeah, look at this. So the tape, let me focus this in a little bit. You'll see that the tape right here is, that's where you can see it's broken. And actually, there's a little sticky something right there. I can feel it. And if you look inside the housing, you'll see inside the shell, you'll see that there's tape all kind of twisted up in there. I have no idea what happened, but it's clearly broken. Now the problem that we're about to run into, and this is pretty common, is that there's no screws holding this together, which means we have to break into it. And this is kind of hit and miss. You know, we kind of see if we can pry it apart and salvage the shell, but a lot of times we can't. It's just, we end up just breaking it in a bunch of pieces. And anyway, that's sometimes these tapes like these shells like this that happens. I'll show you what we do though, and how we get into this, and what we do to repair tapes like this. So, and you'll see this is from a church, because you can tell because it says John 8. This is on Sunday, and the date right there. We get a lot of these. I mean, probably the most common projects that we do are churches. Churches and government agencies. That's the most common thing that we get. And we literally, I think this particular project came in a couple weeks ago, and I think there are about 1,300 cassette tapes with this one, which is kind of, it's pretty average. We get, I think one of the biggest church ones we've done is about 5,000 tapes. But we did a project for the state of New Mexico years ago. We did 115,000 tapes for just one client. So I mean, that's kind of one of the things we specialize in. Even though we do small projects, for families and things like that. We've gotten really good over the years at doing these really large projects. That's kind of one of our things. But anyway, if you have tapes and you need them digitized, no matter how big your project, we actually get shipments all the time, which is one tape. It's very common. So anyway, but I'm going to show you what we do to get in here. The first thing we have to do, what we need some leverage. And so the first thing we do is these write protect tabs, or record protect tabs. You'll see that there's this little piece of plastic right there. I don't know if you can tell in that camera, but you'll see that there's this one little cutout. But there's a piece of plastic right there, and we pop it out. And what that is it's a record protect tab. When it's in place like this, you can record over the tape. The tape deck will allow you to record over this tape. When this thing is popped out, like so, now you can no longer record over this tape. The tape player will not allow it. And I'll show you, if you ever bought a tape from a record company, I'll show you one. Let me find what we have here now that you can actually see. Oh, this one will work. So you'll see this tape here. This is a tape from a record company, and you'll see that there are just holes right there. So when you buy tapes like this one is ELO, and they don't have the tabs are removed, and that means you can't record over your ELO tape. That's the purpose of these things. And what I do when I start fixing these things, I pop these out first, because then I can get the screwdriver in here and start getting some leverage to see if we can actually just break this seal. The goal when you do this is mainly just not to destroy the tape inside the shell, because you can you can destroy the shell and just take the tape and put it in another shell. which is probably what we're going to end up doing. My guess is this thing's going to break apart. And so you just have to be careful not to damage the tape inside that's already damaged. So what I'm going to do now is take this screwdriver, pop it in there. You know what I often do first is I'll see if I can crack it, see if I can get the seams to break a little bit. You can hear that it's kind of cracking. If we can get it to crack a little bit, then it's easier to get it apart without destroying it. I don't know, we might be able to do this. Let's see. So I'm going to put my screwdriver in there. Oh yeah, look at this. We've already got this part separated. You'll see what I'm doing there. I've actually got this pried open. So the trick is, can we get it, sometimes going around this corner though, yeah, this, you just never know with this. And you just kind of have to wedge the screwdrivers in here. Oh, I don't think we're going to make this work. Yeah, see how it just broke there? Yeah, this is not gonna survive, unfortunately. Oh, you know what? Well, we're not going to. We could actually, so far, get this shell to work, but we've got so many other tape housings that we don't really need to. We'll just put this in a new one. Yeah, it's kind of a, well, I mean, we could get that to work if we needed to, but we're not gonna. And you'll look right there, yeah, that was, just had some stickiness to it. And there's our pressure pad, which we're just gonna move out of the way. And this one's interesting because it doesn't look like it had a, magnetic shield right there. And I don't think it did. It didn't have a shield. Usually there's a little piece of metal that floats right there, and excuse me, and it's a little magnetic shield, and it looks like it's something. Not all tapes had it, but it looks like this one didn't. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just kind of set this aside. We'll do the repair in a minute. We're going to put it in a new housing. This is just, what happens is we get clients, like I said, that send in thousands and thousands of tapes, and they don't want them back. And there's never anything sensitive on these. It's usually, like I said, it's sermons. And so what we do is we just take the label off and then just salvage pieces and parts for other people. Like if you sent a tape in and the pressure pad was missing or something, then we just use one from a previous client that was kind enough to just let us hold on to the tapes. And then we remove the label like you see here, so no one, and then the tape itself that's on the inside, we just throw it away. So it's gone. So then that just came out like that, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this out, like so. Garbage. So now what we're going to do is take this, and move it onto here. Excuse me. I'm going to try to get the right side in the right place. Let's see what side this is. That's B. So, let me get this thing back on. So what I need to do now, and the truth is, it doesn't matter if you get the tape on the right side, because this project, I know what it is it's sermons, and what normally happens with these tapes is they have, and I know with this project in particular, there's one tape per sermon. And then what normally happens is these will be in 90-minute tapes, and then the whole first side of the tape, 45 minutes, will be most of the sermon, and then the tape will get flipped over, and then you'll get the last 10 minutes on the other side. And so when we digitize it, we just record everything that's on the tape no matter what. It doesn't matter what order we record it in. We'll be able to tell instantly, oh, that's side B and that's side A, and we just stitch them together and no one will ever know the difference. So it's not super critical that we get the tape in the right side, but we're going to do it anyway. So that's side A, so we're just going to move it straight over. Yeah, this tape is a little bit of a mess. We're gonna have to just, this isn't gonna wind on very smoothly. So I'm gonna, Yeah, that's not fun. Okay, well, not really the way I'd like to do that, but didn't have much choice there. And you'll see there's the tape. Yeah, look at that. There's some gunky, gooey something that was on here. I don't know if you can see that in the image there, but you can see how it's kind of gunky right there. And I'm guessing if we find the other side of this, there's the other side that broke. Yeah, there was something, maybe got sticky on this thing. And when somebody was playing it, and when I noticed that this was discolored when we first took it out, and it's possible that something spilled on it or who knows what, and then that causes the problem. And so, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and move this over on this side because that's where we're going to have to put it there anyway. Like I said, it really won't matter when we digitize it. The way we do digitizing it won't matter which side's which, honestly. So, this might have been the right way anyway. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to make this repair, and I'm going to spool this up a little bit so we kind of know what we're doing. And I'm sorry, my finger's me blocking part of this work right now. So I'm going to just spin this for a minute. And, you know, we do so many of these things. And I think I mentioned a second ago that we've done as many as 115,000 for one client. We've done some really, really cool stuff. There was some people that contacted us a couple years ago that they were doing a big research project. It was the family of a former vice president of the United States, and somebody was writing a book or doing a documentary or something, and they had all these micro cassettes of these interviews with like real heavy hitters, and you know who's who in Washington D.C. And they'd had all these one of a kind recordings of these interviews with these really prominent people, and it's so cool some of the stuff that we get in here. We've had videotapes, believe it or not, from Grammy Award-winning artists. I mean, like the videotapes of them at their house in their backyard with their dog, and we digitize those. So we get some pretty neat stuff in here. Everything's very private, and we've been doing this, like I said, for a long time, and we're trusted by organizations all over the country. Because we've got a real long track record and a great deal of trust with different governments on all levels and everything. So anyway, and this business kind of started out as a passion for me because I started working in recording studios when I was a younger man, and so I was working with all kinds of tape, and I just always kind of enjoyed it. And then I stumbled into this business kind of on accident. I had some old tapes. I was in a rock band, and I had some old tapes of our rehearsals and things of that nature, and I started digitizing them because I had a little recording studio. And then I asked myself one day, I wonder if people would pay money for me to digitize their tapes. This is back in the year 2000. And so I made this little website, and I won't bore you with the story, but next thing you know, we're getting things shipped in from all over the country. And then a few years later, we were featured in Real Simple magazine, and then it just really, really took off. So we've stayed pretty busy over the years. So now what I'm going to do, I have these two ends that we're going to try to splice together, and I'm going to show you the procedure that we go through here. Hopefully that's still in focus. One of the things I do at this point is I'll kind of cover that up to hold the tape in place so it doesn't come flipping off the reel. It might still, but that gives us a better chance of it not doing that. And we're going to have to cut this tape because there's just this kind of sticky, I can feel it. This is all sticky right there. By the way, and you always wash your hands really good when you're doing this work so you don't get your oils from your hands all over the tape and then potentially on the playheads and things. So what we're going to do is the way we normally do this is I set one tape over the top of the other, one end over the top of the other, and I'm going to cut a bit of this tape off to get way away from that sticky part. And what I'm going to do, and I was taught this in studios when I was a young man, and I don't know if this is, it's not super important, but it's kind of a best practice when you're doing these homemade repairs, is to cut, get this thing over like this, and then cut at an angle. And the purpose of the angle is so that when you put the thing together, when you splice it, the angle is supposed to theoretically make the tape move over the playhead more smoothly because it's going with kind of a point. I don't know. It's not super important, but it was kind of something I learned in the studios when I was a younger man. So I'm just going to get some scissors, and I'm just going to, dang it, I just messed that up. I'm going to cut it like so. There you go. So now we should have two ends. Yeah, you'll see that. If you see that kind of discoloration, and you can feel it. It's all sticky. So somebody spilled something on it, or who knows what. And what we do from here is you want to make sure that you'll see on this one that there's the original, the splice, from the leader to the oxide tape. Let me focus that again. There it is, the leader to the oxide tape. That's the original splice, and our little break was just in about 7-8 inches away from that. But you put the splice should go on this side because the playhead's on this side. And then what I found, you just want some, you can use just any tape, Scotch tape, whatever. But we found this packing tape years ago that's really, really thin. So we just cut little strips from this packing tape. And then it's just kind of a matter of, I'm going to try to do this so you can see if we can get that in focus. Just kind of setting it across straight like so. So you can see and then we're going to put the matching side over here. There's our angle. It actually helps you when you have the angle. It helps you identify how it's supposed to match. God, I've got that upside down. There we go. And working with this tape can be maddening sometimes because it wants to curl and twist. And if you've ever worked with this tape's not, it is kind of a pain. But the worst stuff is micro cassettes. Oh my goodness. That stuff is so thin. So we just match that up the best we can. And there we go. And now there you go. It's all put together. It's all going to work now. Let's focus back down onto the shell. And we have a repaired tape. Excuse me. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to, once again, hold this in place so it spools on here correctly. And then we'll get the whole thing sealed back up, and it'll be as if nothing ever happened. So, getting this thing kind of working with this tape sometimes can be a little bit challenging because it kind of has a mind of its own. Now when you get down to the leader, which is this clear stuff, then it's a lot more easy to manage. It's not flipping around so much. I'll show you something interesting on here too. Once I get that around the post, let's see here. So I've got it around, so it's got to go around. You'll see a post right there and a post right there. And then there's these other posts that these wheels sit on, and these should spin freely. I'm going to pull this tight so that I can get it to set inside these guides right there. Okay. Now the thing I was going to show you that's kind of interesting is how is this leader right here connected to the spool. And if you look closely, you'll notice that this section right here looks different than these 5 sections. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There isn't any magic number about 5. Not all tapes have that, but I'm just showing you the difference. So these 5 sections look a certain way, then this one looks a little different. And what it is that this little piece actually comes out. The leader tape gets put down in this little hole. So this wheel isn't complete. There's actually a hole in it right there. Excuse me. And so you put the tape down in that hole, and then this little thing actually pushes down inside of it, and that's what holds it on. I'm going to bring it up closer so you can see it up close, what we're looking at. All right, do you see that? Right there? So the tape actually connects in at that spot, and that little thing right there can actually be removed. Anyway, and that's what holds the tape in place. That's what holds it, so that it doesn't come off the reel. Now, what's interesting, because that's sitting there under a tiny bit of pressure, one of the weirdest repairs that we do, and we have a video on YouTube about this, is sometimes this, depending on the polymer of this plastic, have you ever seen white plastic that turns yellow over time? Well, it also, when it turns yellow, it gets brittle. That happens sometimes to these little spools. And sometimes what will happen is that little piece right there will actually crack under the pressure, just go bink, and then it'll fall out, and then the tape just winds out on, and then the leader's, it's completely off the spool. And that's kind of a weird repair. I mean, it's weird to see because we don't see it very often. But it's really as simple as we just take another one of these spools out of another tape, like I just did a second ago for this housing, and then just attach it in here, and it works fine. So we get, you name the problem, and we've seen it with audio tape. So anyway, so that's it. We have this little magnetic shield that's in place there. The only thing that we have to do is get this pressure pad in the right spot here. So I'm going to take this pair of tweezers and see if I can just set it in there correctly. There you go. The purpose of that pressure pad, if you don't know, is when you push play on your tape deck, you have this thing, it's the play head. And I had one sitting here that we'd pulled out of a machine so I can show it on these videos. I don't know where it ended up. Somebody must have come and grabbed it to show somebody. Oh, here it is. There it is. So this is a playhead, typical playhead taken out of a tape deck. And that little pressure pad that you'll see right there, and then you'll see that the tape, you know, the actual, well, this isn't the oxide, this is the leader, but it's the same thing, you know, serves the same purpose for what we're doing here. When these spools turn, the tape gets pulled across, and when you push play, the head goes up and touches it pushes on that little pressure pad, and then the tape moves in between those things. And then the little pressure pad right there makes sure that this head has a really nice solid connection to the tape when it's playing. And you know, the most common repair that we have in the studio is actually not the tape breaking like you just saw here. What it is it's actually this little pressure pad falling off. And it's kind of amazing, but you know, just because the adhesive over time just deteriorates, and then the pressure pad falls off, and then because it's not making a solid connection with the playhead, it sounds awful. And you know, I've had people call and say, boy, I can barely even hear anything on the tape anymore. I don't know, and I'll say, just take a look and tell me, is there a little piece of felt? No, is there something? And sure enough, they send it in, and it's fallen off, and we have bags of those things, so we can just put one on and either open it up and replace it, or just glue one on. It's actually pretty simple. And then it'll sound magically great all of a sudden. And that's all it was, is that pressure pad. It's a really, really important part of a tape sounding good. So we replace those more than anything. That is the most common repair that we do on cassette tapes, is the pressure pad. And you know, when we do these big projects for people, we kind of anticipate. I mean, we've had it sometimes where we'll open up a box of tapes that somebody sent us, and just pressure pads just falling out all over the place. So it's really common. And so, and we just replace them. We do it. That's something. If we don't have to open up tape, we just do it for free, just because it happens so often. So if you have a tape like that, just send it in, and we can get that fixed for you. And then we can digitize it. And if you have any tapes you need to digitize, so this gasket, we have to set this back on. If you have any tapes you need to digitize, send them to us. We'd love to help you out with that. Audio or video tapes, we do them all. You'll also notice, hold that in the light, that there's these little kind of ridges. There's several. Looks like there's several of them right here. Every gasket's a little different, these little plastic gaskets. And what the purpose of that is first of all, this plastic keeps it from rubbing on the inside of this. But also it keeps just a little bit of pressure on both sides, so that the tape, it helps it from wanting to come off the spool inside the housing, because it kind of pushes on it just a tiny, tiny bit. And then it usually keeps it from coming off, because you don't see that very often. I made a video just recently where we replaced one where the tape had come off, but that's very, very rare. So now it's all put back together. We have the magnetic shield right there. We've got the pressure pad. The little wheels are in place. Everything's going around the way it's supposed to. Now I'm just going to set this, and if it's lined up, it should just fall on. Boom. Easy. And then we throw these screws back in, and then at this point we'll be able to play this, and it'll work like nothing ever happened. Now what we do from there is, because we had to break the other housing, and because that housing had a label on it of what the contents of the tape is, we will just grab a rubber band and literally just rubber band the piece that had the label, we'll rubber band it to this. And then as we process it through the studio, we'll know that this tape goes with that. And then we have a numbering system too to kind of keep track of everything. So then we put this last screw in, and this is almost ready to go. Like I said, if you have any tapes that you need to digitize, or if you have friends or family that have them, you probably know somebody, let them know about us. Send them to audiomover.com and audiomover.com, and we can help you out with that. And also like and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it if you do that, and give us any comments. If you have anything you'd like us to make videos about, watch our other videos. We've been doing videos on records recently, and some of them are pretty fun. Anyway, you'll see that we just, once again, we'll just kind of, I'll take this back into the digitizing area, and then somebody will pick it up from here, and they'll we'll get this rubber banded together, and then it'll make it through the studio, and then the client will get it back. This particular client, like I said, they sent in about, I don't know, it's 12 or 1,300 cassette tapes, and we, amazingly, out of that many, I think this is one of maybe 5 or 6 that had to get fixed. You figure, you do any project where you start dealing with 1,000 of anything, and you're going to have things just that are broken, that don't work right. And so we always get a few, and we put that in our contract. That we rarely, in some of these things, we'll do these bigger projects, we'll do a certain number of repairs just for free because it's such a large project. If we have to open up a tape, though, we usually just charge $10. If we have to do something a little more dramatic like this, we charge $10 to get it fixed, and then it'll just work. And you don't have to do anything. We can take care of this. We've been doing this for so long. Love to help you out, though. Anyway, audiomover.com. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and have a fantastic day.